Hello and good afternoon, everyone. How's everyone doing out there? My name is Mike Finelli. For those of you that don't know who I am so grateful for having this opportunity to do this live today, to speak to you about love and relationships and self-love and self-improvement and all of that great stuff. You know, it's interesting. I always talk about the journey. So today I'm going to talk about the journey of oscillation between when we have progress and when we have resistance. But before I get into that, I want to clarify what the vision is and what the journey is. Specifically, the journey itself really is the progress, the resistance, the connection and disconnection. It is our unraveling of unconscious and conscious patterns. It's a journey in developing and getting into parts of ourselves, into parts of our soul which haven't for so long been able to connect to ourselves. And so it's really about coming home, right? It's really about coming home to you. It's about coming home to who you truly are. It's about getting connected to yourself, getting connected to that part of you that you've disconnected from many patterns ago and many hurts ago and many relationships ago. And so it brings us to this place of self-actualization, to this place of being able to connect with ourselves. And so what does that all mean? I mean, it means is that we're able to live a different type of life, manifest a relationship that we're looking for. And the relationship doesn't have to be with someone else. The relationship can be with yourself. And so the idea is for this journey is through self-love principles and deep introspective work. And the work that I do, and if you see my posts and if you followed me, it's really about a marriage of psychology principles. So looking at patterns from childhood, patterns in relationships, the psychology and patterns of your thoughts, how you've created, what programs you've heard, growing up, what messages, direct and indirect, that you've heard, how we self-sabotage. So these are all psychology principles. And the other part of it is the spiritual piece, the connectedness piece, that reconnecting that part of yourself that you've disconnected due to these patterns, due to living in a very three-dimensional world where we've lost track of, we've lost connection with Mother Earth, we lost connection with ourselves through innovation and progress, as they say. How we've disconnected from nature and its sources. How we've disconnected to how getting in touch with ourselves, reconnecting with ourselves. And so there's a marriage of the two, and that's the beautiful part of this. This is what makes what I feel I bring is a very logical, if you're that logical type of person, which I am, with the psychology and really getting understanding your patterns to say, oh yeah, that's why I believe this. That's why I have this repeating pattern. And the spiritual piece, which brings spiritual peace, harmony, the tools that we can harvest through the act of spirituality from let's say, a non-religious point of view, because it's not religious at all. It's that marriage of our interconnectedness with ourselves, with the earth, the energies around us, and the people around us in our community. And so a lot of the stuff that I talk about during my lives can typically bring a lot of guilt and shame and self-punishment. You know, we often think that we behave a certain way. We've been in relationships in the past where they've broken down, you've been a certain way, you wish you would have had a different behavior, you wish it would have been different. And I get that. I come from that. I come from a long history of through my adulthood of broken relationships. And so there's nothing wrong with broken relationships. I think there is this stigma out there that relationships are bad, or the breakup of a relationship is bad. But it's the dysfunctionality in which myself and my story is what I had a struggle with and what I was shaming myself for and self-punishing myself for. So the rule in these lives with me is that shit's gonna come up, and I prefer that we don't should all over ourselves and get into a state where, we're punishing ourselves, right? We're punishing ourselves for the things we didn't know. So part of this journey is really, that self-awareness, right? Is we understand where we come from, we understand who we are. And so if this makes sense to you, any of this makes sense to you, please feel free to comment or chime in. Certainly, there's an opportunity here for us to grow as a community. And so what I want to talk about is the oscillation that we have, so that bounce between our progress and our resistance. So that big part of us, our psyche part of us, sees every step that we make, every improvement that we make, every fear that we surpass as progress, as taking the next step. I am much better than I was, let's say, a week ago or a month ago or a year ago, for example, as we go along this journey. But what happens is that we develop some resistance. There seems to be some fighting outside my house, apparently, by some animals. But there's this resistance that we have, and it's part of the natural process of this journey, right? It seems to be this bounce between progress and resistance. And so what happens is that when we are called towards the light, when we are called out to really be in touch with our awareness, when we want to step into our brightness, we want to move away from those old patterns, when we want to move away from those old behaviors and live a very different life, there's a big part of us that gets in the way of progress. And these demons inside of us really want to keep us down. They want to, even at a very subconscious level, put us in a place of discomfort and can often stunt our progress and stunt our growth. And so, whether you want to call it the wounded ego or your inner child or the part of your psyche that doesn't want to give up these stories, these patterns, it's perfectly understandable and it's perfectly normal to find that resistance, to feel that resistance. We feel it in our body. We get uncomfortable. The ego doesn't want to die. The wounded child is wounded. It's hurt. It doesn't know what to do. We don't know how to behave in our adult bodies. And that's the beautiful thing about this journey, is that we get to those depths of our psyche, to break those patterns. But of course, it requires us to jump on this journey and do the work, right? And to allow us to get into that place of understanding and knowing who we are and how we can change things. But it's interesting because that oscillation, right? That bounce between the two, between progress and resistance, actually has an important role. It really does. It really reminds us of our humanness, right? It reminds us of how delicate we are and how precious we are, and understanding that there's a connection between us and what's around us. We're not robots, right? It's not like the Matrix, where you want to learn Kung Fu and you put in the disc and away you go. It's very different. That's why it's called a journey. It takes months and months. And what's interesting is that it tests our commitment as humans, right? We have this ability to want to quit before we get started. We self-sabotage. And so the oscillation between the two is part of the process. We often should all over ourselves when we are progressing, when we make some progress, and then realize that we fall back into an old pattern. And so we get down on ourselves and we think, oh, I did all of this work and there is no progress. And so now we resist. So we've got some progress and now there's resistance. And really what it does, it's a beautiful insight. It is. It can be. We can shit all over ourselves and get depressed and disconnect and all of that. But it's also a beautiful opportunity to realize that there is humanness in this journey, that not everyone has it figured out all at once. And so there are many parts of us that want to quit. There's many parts of our ego that enjoys the dysfunctionality, enjoys the toxic relationships, enjoys the drama. Even though we say to ourselves that we don't, parts of us actually resonate with that. And so until we get to a stage in where we're in the position to be able to and want to step away from those, we will continue in that dysfunctionality. And that's part of this work. This is part of this work. And so what does resistance look like, right? You say, what are you talking about? I don't even know what that means. So resistance looks like fear. Fear of embarking on transformational work. That's your ego resisting. Or if you want to take it to the next step, there's fear inside you that it's going to take you to a darker place, to a deeper depths of yourself that you've never discovered. We shame ourselves. We feel guilty. Or we project shame on others. We project guilt on others. Maybe our partners, maybe our siblings, maybe people in our town. You see that a lot, especially with 2020 almost behind us, where we've seen aggression is another part of resistance. We are aggressive against ourselves. We are aggressive with our people in our community. We shame them. We guilt them. And so as much as that part of us wants progress, it resists and we judge. We judge ourselves first and foremost. And when we're tired of doing that, we judge others. We judge others for not meeting our standards. We judge others for dissing us. Can I say that? Of course I can say that. We judge others for the way they live, the way they behave. We judge others on how they don't take care of their dog. We judge others on how they don't take care of themselves. We judge others for the way that they are. And so it really, all of these things, and by the way, I'm guilty for some or all of those at some point in time or even today, because this is a journey. But it serves a purpose. It serves a purpose. This fear, this guilt, this shame, this projection, all this shit that we do, it serves a purpose to protect us. Yes, it protects us. The ego doesn't want to die. It wants to protect itself. It's self-preservation. It's our number one standard operating system is self-preservation. And so the ego wants to resist transformation. It wants to resist surpassing. It wants to resist growth. And eventually it wants to resist your ability to follow your soul's divinity, to follow that place of peace and harmony, that place where you can feel good about yourself, to have unlimited abundance and unlimited joy. That's what the ego wants to prevent. Again, it's built within us. It's that part of our brain that wants to keep us safe, but unfortunately, it doesn't always do the job. It oftentimes puts us in a place of fight or flight and dysfunctionality. And so we've seen a lot of this, and I've said this before, in 2020. All of it got highlighted. But you know what? It's no different than it's been in 2019 or 2018. We still had dysfunctional relationships with self. We still had people committing suicide. We still had people breaking up in relationships. And so 2020 is the marker. It is the true testament that it is our responsibility as adults to embark on this journey. It is our responsibility to take our stuff and transcend them. It is our responsibility now to practice compassionate self-awareness when we are resisting that. 2020 has taught us that we need to change. Things are not working. But it is also a testament that we have also been very resistant. We've been very resistant to change. We've been very resistant to changing our patterns, to create something very different. Resistance is a sign of us growing. As much as 2020 has gotten a bad rap, it is a sign that we are growing, wanting to grow out of those dark places. But in order to do that, just like a plant, we need to shed some light on it. And how do we do that? We do that by first, again, taking responsibility, but also embarking, doing the changes, stop protecting our identity, building community that is outside of potential mainstream social media networks. Because a lot of us that part of us doesn't want to die. So it's our responsibility to change those patterns. And we can. It has been proven that we can learn something new. It changes our DNA. I won't get into the work of Dr. Lipton, Bruce Lipton. And so it is our thoughts, our intentionality, and the progress and resistance that allows us to embark on that journey. And so we begin 2021. Is something going to change by tomorrow and the next day? No, just a calendar year is going to change. If the patterns are the same and we don't make the effort to make the changes, we don't realize that the change begins with us. And I know it sounds like like something we've heard. It really does. And it starts with very simple things, just 2021, just very simple. It could be shedding fake friends, removing bad habits, not having doubt in your ability to change. There is no doubt in my mind that if I can change, if I can rise to the challenge, if I can do it, everyone out there, if you are watching this, you can too. It requires your effort. It requires your choice. And this is where we begin to make a choice on whether we want to remain where we are, where we've been, or we want to embrace that in the next week, in the next 6 months, in the next year. But it needs to begin with you. It's time for us to take individual responsibility and bring that to the collective. So that's what I really wanted to talk about today. I am going to be making some changes to the platforms that I create my work. Most of you have seen me on this page. You've seen me on my my personal page here, my Facebook page. I'm also on Instagram. I also have a YouTube channel. I also will be creating a community off of the standard social media. I believe that this work is very important, and it must be seen by everyone who has followed me. The Social Dilemma documentary has shown us that there are engineers in the back controlling what we see. And this is no time for us to be shown darkness when we need light. We need to be shown this. My message needs to be seen. If you're a light worker, you need to be seen. If you're a coach, you need to be seen. If you want to embark on that journey, you also need to be seen. And so I will be starting a new community. I will have more information on that. But in the meantime, if you are interested, go ahead and go to my website, MikeFinelli.com, and click on Connect. It's somewhere on the banner. And just join my distribution list. I don't spam. I don't share it with anyone. What you'll get access to is all some exclusive content, a lot of my articles. I have a newsletter. I have a blog there. But you'll also receive information on where I go next, where the community will be. And it won't be too far from home. Actually, it will be right on my website. So I'm super excited about that. You'll get the same content as here. I will also be able to do lives, apparently. And so that is my announcement for 2021. And of course, I mentioned in my previous post, if you scroll down in the feed, that I am so excited about the new program that I've created that is going to be amazing. It is going to be transformational. It is going to be beautiful. And that's exactly what we need right now. So I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. I am so grateful to be able to do this work at this day and age, so we can create a better version of us. So again, I appreciate your time, and yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Have a great day.